Доброго вечора, ми з України.
The AK-12 is the current standard issue firearm of the Russian Armed Forces. Manufactured by Kalashnikov Concern and introduced in 2018, the AK-12's development went through several reductions in scope, going from what was originally a complete redesign of the AK system with all new ergonomics to what is more or less an external upgrade of the AK-74M. The AK-12 in Airsoft has had several brands make their own versions ranging from NPO to LCT and Arcturus. So how does G&G's new entry fare against them? Hello everybody, I'm Andrew, and in this special preview we have an early look at the G&G GK12 AEG, a replica of the Kalashnikov AK-12, the name of which I'm probably going to use interchangeably throughout this video. Now, this sample provided to us is based on the 2018 production variant of the AK-12, which is identifiable through its AR-looking extendable stock, unlike the more recent 2020 version of the AK-12. First things first, the rifle has a gorgeous full metal exterior with its receiver being made of steel and smaller parts like the trigger and outer barrel being made of aluminium. The handguard and stock, however, are made of a very solid polymer. The rifle itself feels rock solid with no wobble whatsoever, just as we'd expect from G&G. And the weight is well balanced around the center of the magazine, like most AKs before it. Now, starting at the front, we have the AK-12's muzzle brake with some pretty vicious looking blunt spikes on the tip. You know, off to the gulag with you. Now, push this tiny spring pin down to unscrew it, and you can reveal a 14mm CCW thread to go and attach various accessories like suppressors and tracer units. Now, moving on, we have the standard AK style open front sight, which is adjustable in elevation with the included front sight adjustment tool. Just underneath it though, in the gas tube, is a tool used to unleash the quick change spring, which is cleverly disguised as a gas plug. And beneath that is, as usual, the front sling mount. As mentioned earlier, the handguard is made of a very solid polymer with Picatinny rails on the 3, 6, 9 and 12 o'clock positions. That being said, it is unfortunate that events do expose some of the wiring inside right over here. On to the receiver. On top, we have a monolithic upper rail that, unlike earlier AKs, is designed from scratch to hold zero by retaining tension between the receiver and the dust cover. On top is a fully adjustable rear peep sight with the ability to both adjust for elevation with its range increments and windage by turning the spring tension knob on the side. Now, to remove the dust cover, first flip out this lever on the top and remove the captive pin to gain access to the battery compartment, which unfortunately only contains a small Tamiya connector. So if you have a Dean's battery, you're probably going to need an adapter. It's also important to note that, like other AK AEGs, there's only really enough space for a relatively small stick-type battery, so do keep that in mind. Also in the compartment, but also accessible by pulling back the charging handle, is the GK12's hop-up dial. Now, it's nice, big, round, and easy to access in-game with very sort of tactile clicks for your pleasure. On to the fire selector, and the GK12 has a traditional AK-styled selector, which will be familiar with existing users. The difference though is that the firing modes feature safe, full auto, 2-round burst, and at the very bottom is semi-automatic all the way down here. Now, to be frank, I don't really see the point of 2-round burst, as it doesn't seem to offer any more tactical advantages than just firing on semi. However, it is on the real thing, so credit to G&G for including it. The trigger is a standard AK AEG style trigger, so there's not really much to comment on. The GK12, however, does have a programmable ETU, which will allow you to change the firing modes of the 2-round burst to 3 or even 5-round bursts if you really need to make that enemy call their hits. The grip is a pretty decent ergonomic polymer grip with small finger indents, and it frankly looks great. Quality-wise, there are no mode lines or any cheap shortcuts you tend to find on many other polymer parts out there, so it's actually pretty impressive. Onto the rear, you have the AK-12's adjustable folding stock. Now, if you go and push this button over here, it folds to the left. However, while it does lock, the stock doesn't actually fold entirely, and you're sort of left at this strange oblique angle, which really messes with my OCD. Now, folding the stock also exposes the quick change spring, which can be removed and changed by using the gas plug tool I mentioned earlier on. Now, to unfold the stock, all you have to do is simply press down this rear lever, and it's back to normal once more. Now, the stock itself is mounted on a 6-position adjustable sort of buffer tube, except it isn't really a buffer tube as it has absolutely no practical function on the AK platform whatsoever. Now, what's more is that while this skeletonized stock itself looks pretty decent, it is not AR compatible at all, and it's entirely proprietary, just like the real thing. And now for the magazine. The G&G GK12 has a proprietary 120 round mid-cap polymer magazine. It looks great, with fake rounds being visible on the small round counter windows on the sides. Now, what's more is that this sort of flat indent on the bottom is angled perfectly for the rifle to rest on when shooting from a prone position, essentially making it as a sort of makeshift monopod. Now, on top of the feed tube is, if you see over here, an extended follower that ensures every single round in that magazine is fired out of the gun before it's empty. Now, honestly, I'm surprised more AEGs don't have this feature, as the number of wasted rounds you use when using AEGs over a period of time can actually rise pretty high. On the rear of the mag, however, is the magazine cutoff lever. Yes, the G&G GK12 is the only AK AEG aside from the Marui NGRS that has an empty magazine cutoff feature. What does this mean? It means that this rifle will not fire without a magazine inserted and will cease firing if a G&G magazine is empty. Now, in terms of compatibility, AK magazines from other brands, like this LCT one for example, can fit in the GK12 with a bit of sort of heavy persuasion. Now, they obviously won't activate the empty mag cutoff, so it will act like any normal AEG when empty if not using G&G magazines. So overall, the G&G GK12 has pretty good externals and a whole host of features not normally found on other AEGs. But how does it shoot? Let's head to the range and find out. And now for the Chrono. As usual, we'll be using 0.2 gram BBs. And now for the accuracy test. As usual, we'll be firing at a target 30 meters away with 0.25 gram BBs, as is typical for AEGs. So let's go. All right, range is hot, safety's off. Let's do this. And there we go. Overall, very snappy report. It actually does perform quite well, very accurate. I really do like its precise accuracy. And yeah, it's just a really nice, accurate AEG. That's all I can really say about it. Anyway, let's go check it out, shall we? All right, here we go. Hey, there's a lot of BBs down here, man. Actually a hazard. Right, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, beginning of the shooting, I was having trouble because the black iron sights were a little difficult to discern with this black background. So the first few shots were definitely flyers, but once I knew where to adjust, I aimed down around here. So
I will count, tell you what, I'll count these two as flyers, right? Because they're just off. So. Overall, pretty impressed. As an AEG, of course it's going to be accurate and it's going to be consistent. And it reflects in the results over here, aside from my personal errors in those two. Aside from that, the gun feels fantastic. It's solidly built, it is great functionality. You have a 2-round burst, which I'm not really sure on its actual functionality, but yeah, I actually really do like it. It's very nice, very skirmishable. Ergonomics, it's still using the old style AK change lever, this time with an extra step to go and enable semi-auto. I'm not so keen on its dated ergonomics. Can't really complain. Anyway, enough about this. Let's head back to the studio, shall we? So overall, the G&G GK12 not only looks great, but shoots great as well. So let's rank the thing. Now for fun factor, we give this a 4 stars out of 5. Granted, the GK12 doesn't have the feel of a GBB, but its modularity, 2-round burst, programmable ETU, and unique empty magazine cutoff function puts this way ahead of your average AEG. For realism, we'll give this a 3.5 stars out of 5. Being an AEG greatly reduces its realism, but its steel externals does make up for its shortcomings. Furthermore, its 2-round burst function, while questionable in terms of effectiveness, also makes the G&G GK12 one of the more functionally realistic Airsoft AK-12s on the market. Performance gets a 4 stars out of 5. As is typical for AEGs, the GK12 is consistent and accurate. Not to mention the empty mag cutoff feature is certainly an advantage against other AEGs in-game. Now, the downside though is the small battery space and a lack of Dean's connectors, which kind of hampers its true potential. Build quality is a decent 4 stars out of 5. With a high steel content and accurate ergonomics and functions, the GK12 is externally a fantastic replica of the AK-12, though small faults like the visible wiring, however, do prevent it from reaching top marks. On value, however, it gets a 2 stars out of 5. The GK12 is frankly one of the most expensive guns G&G has out there, with an expected retail price of over $500 US. However, it is the most realistic functioning Airsoft AK-12 out there, so take it as you may. For collectability, we give the GK12 a 3 stars out of 5. The GK12 is certainly not the first Airsoft AK-12 out there, with versions being made by NPO, LCT, Arcturus, and even Well. But none of them have a last mag cutoff feature, so it's still a pretty significant improvement in my opinion. Overall, the G&G GK12 scores a fairly reasonable 3.5 stars out of 5. It has decent externals and excellent performing internals too, making it one of the best airsoft replicas of the AK-12 out there. However, existing AK owners will probably have to consider if it's sufficient enough of an upgrade to justify the serious cost of purchase, as opposed to simply slapping on a bunch of Zeneco rails on the AK-74M like we have over here. So let's hand it over to you guys. What are your thoughts on the G&G GK12? Let us know in the comments section below. And for these cool products and many more, visit us at www.redwolfairsoft.com. This is Andrew, _Flood, out.